Good morning. Thank you for the question. Exception handling is a mechanism used to manage errors that occur during program execution. In simple terms, an exception is when something unexpected happens, like dividing by zero, failing to connect to the database, or not finding a file. If we do not handle these errors properly, the application may crash. But if we handle them correctly, the system can continue running and show a friendly error message to the user. This is especially important in web applications because a single crash can affect many users at the same time. Both Java and .NET use very similar structures for exception handling. They both rely on three main keywords: try, catch, and finally. Inside the try block, we write risky code that might fail. Inside the catch block, we'll handle the error if it occurs. And finally, it is used for cleanup operations like closing database connections or releasing resources. So syntactically, both platforms are very similar in how they structure exceptions handling logic. However, the main difference between Java and .NET is how strictly they force developers to handle errors. In Java, there is a concept called checked exceptions. This means the compiler forces the programmer to handle certain types of errors. For example, if we open a file or connect to a database, Java will not compile the code unless we either catch the exception using a try catch block or declare it in the method signature using the throws keyword. Because of this strict enforcement, Java programs are generally safer by design, since developers cannot easily ignore important errors. The language itself prevents you from forgetting to handle critical exceptions. In contrast, .NET or specifically C Sharp uses only unchecked exceptions. This means the compiler does not force the developers to handle them. The program will compile and run even if exceptions are not caught. This gives developers more flexibility and makes the code shorter and faster to write. However, it also increases the risk that developers might forget to handle some errors. If exceptions are not handled properly, the application may crash at runtime, especially under unexpected conditions. Now, regarding web application reliability means the system continues working correctly even when problems occur. For example, if a database server goes down, we should show an error page to the user instead of crashing the entire web server. In a web environment, reliability is critical because multiple users depend on the system simultaneously, and downtime can result in financial loss or damage to reputation. Java Java's strict approach with checked exceptions improves reliability because most critical errors must be handled during development. The compiler forces developers to think about potential failure points before the code even runs. This proactive error handling often leads to more stable and predictable applications in production. However, this strictness can also lead to verbose code with many try catch blocks scattered throughout the application. Sometimes developers may catch exceptions just to satisfy the compiler without properly handling them, which can reduce code quality. Um, this proactive error handling often leads to more stable and predictable applications in production. However, this strictness can also lead to verbose code with many try-catch blocks scattered throughout the application. Sometimes developers may catch exceptions just to satisfy the compiler without properly handling them, which can reduce code quality. .NET .NET's approach relies more on developer discipline and best practices. If development team uses proper try-catch logic, implements global exception handlers, such as middleware is ASP.NET Core, and follows rigorous testing procedures, then .NET applications can be just as reliable as Java applications. However, if these practices are not followed, the flexibility of unchecked exceptions can lead to unhandled exceptions, causing crashes in production, silent failures that are difficult to debug, and overall reduced reliability. In real-world projects, both platforms can achieve high reliability. When best practices are followed, Java tends to be favored in enterprise environments such as banking, healthcare, and government systems, where stability and predictability are absolutely critical. .NET is often chosen for agile development environments and modern cloud-based applications where rapid development and deployment cycles are valued. Ultimately, reliability is not solely determined by the programming language or its exception handling model. It depends on several factors: the experience and discipline of the development team, the use of proper logging and monitoring tools, comprehensive testing strategies, and sound architectural design, such as implementing circuit breakers, retry logic, and fallback mechanism. To summarize, Java uses checked exceptions which enforce compile time safety and generally lead to more reliable applications by design, but require more verbose code. .NET uses unchecked exceptions, offering flexibility and faster development, but placing greater responsibility on developers to implement robust error handling for web applications. Both platforms can deliver high reliability when combined with proper exception handling strategies. Um, through through testing and continuous monitoring. Speaking time, approximately 5 minutes when spoken at natural, confident pace. Speaking clearly and make eye contact. Pause briefly after each major point. Don't rush. Confidence matters more than speed. If interrupted with questions, answer calmly and refer back to your main points.